Hello, my dear friends. My dear friends, I'm once again back with this summary of very important novel of William Faulkner, and that is The Sound and the Fury. The Sound and the Fury, very important novel from this American novelist. See, this novel was published in the year 1929. And very important point, William Faulkner took the title of this novel from William Shakespeare's very famous tragedy play, that is Macbeth. In Macbeth, in the last act of the play, when Macbeth receives the news of the death of his wife, Lady Macbeth, he averts a soliloquy. And in that soliloquy, he says, life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury. Remember, sound and fury signifies nothing. And William Faulkner took the title from this soliloquy from Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Before I head straightway into the summary of this novel, I would like to tell you something very important related to this novel, particularly the characters, because some of the characters I have not covered in the summary. That's why I think it is important for you to know. Like, for example, Jason, 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 Jason III is the head of the family, and Caroline Bascom Compson is his wife, and the couple Jason the Third or Jason III and Caroline Bascom Compson have actually 4 children. Remember that these facts are very important. The eldest one is Quentin, 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 who is very much sensitive and very much concerned about the respect, honor, name of his family. And next, that is Candace, Candace probably, who is lovingly known as Caddy. Next, Jason the Fourth, who is very close to his mother, Caroline Bascom Compson. Last but not the least, the youngest one, Benjamin, shortly known as Benji, who is mentally not sound. You can say that mentally weak and dull, and to some extent it won't be wrong to call him a little bit eccentric. Then the head of the servant family, Dilsey, Dilsey has exactly, I think, 3 just children. Exactly, I don't remember the name of the children. And has grandson Luster, and Luster is the caretaker of Benji. And one more very important character I forgot to tell you, that is Miss Quinton. 2 Quintons, remember that one, the eldest among the four children to the Compsons. To the Compson, remember that. And one Miss Quinton, daughter to Carrie. Remember that. Just like the mother is promiscuous, a little bit flirt, you can say that. In the same manner, her daughter, Miss Quinton, is also flirt, not sound and strong in nature. And it's all because of that. She ends up eloping with a man with the red tie. One more, Herbert is the name of that person, a banker whom Caddy marries. But when he gets to know that she is pregnant with a child from someone, he divorces. Even then, she bears the baby. She is just outcast from the family, you can say that, or she is excommunicated from the family. She is forced by the family member to leave the family. Even then, she rears the baby Miss Quinton. And after growing up, she just reflects almost all the just negative qualities of her mother. That's I told you that she is also weak in moral, just in moral values. She is a little bit flirt like her mother was, and she ends up running away with a man with red tie. These were certain very important, just you can say, facts related to that this novel that you have to bear in mind. Now let's look at some other facts and summary of this novel. See, The Sound and Fury. Remember that title I told you, title taken from William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Publication of the novel, P. Publication 1929. C. Setting of the novel, Jefferson, Mississippi. Remember that. Technique used in the novel, stream of consciousness. Remember that. Stream of consciousness technique is used by Faulkner in this novel. Why? Because one section of the novel is in flashback, then the next section of the novel is in present, then again flashback, flash forward, not flash forward, then present, present past. This way the narrative moves. The novel is divided into four parts, and each part, remember that each part is narrated by different personae. Four personae, four narrative voices we hear in the novel. Remember that. Next important fact, the novel divided into four sections or parts. The first, remember that the first means the first section or the part describes the events and outcomes, means results, of 7th April 1928 by Benzi. Remember that the first part of the novel is all about the happenings and incidents of 7th April 1928. And who is the narrative voice of the first part? That is Benji. Benji, none other than Benjamin, who is mentally not strong, who is to some extent deranged. Remember that this fact, very important, that the narrator or the narrative voice of the first section, Benjamin, the youngest children to the Compson, Jason the third and Caroline Bascom Compson. One thing I forgot to tell you, this Jason the third is alcoholic kind of a person. He is very much indifferent to the caring, to the upbringing, to the education to his 4 children, whereas his wife, Mrs. Compson, is also very least concerned about the upbringing, so on and so forth, of her children, and in her old age to some extent she becomes a hypochondriac. Means all the time she thinks that she is sick, she's not all right. So the first section describes the events and the actions and the outcomes, results of those actions that happen on 7th April 1928. Remember that, by Benji. So the novel opens. When the novel opens, the setting of the novel is present time. Benji is narrating the incident or happenings of the 7th April 1928, probably the day of his birthday. He is 33 years old man. Next, a 33-year-old mentally disabled man. Second means second section or second part, delineates, confirm this spelling of delineates. Delineate the happenings of June 2nd, 1910. Now, flashback. Now the narrative of the novel moves back into the past. And now it is in the second part. When the second part opens, we get to know that it is 2nd June 1910. Flashback. And who is narrating? Quentin, the eldest, just child to the Compson, Jason the third, and mother Caroline Bascom Compson. Fact very important. And even his suicide in a stream of consciousness style I told you. And here the second section covers that incident, that shocking incident in which we see just Quentin committing suicide by throwing himself up into a river or a water body. See why? Because he cannot bear to see his sister having affair with this young man, having affair with that man, continually staining, tarnishing the image of the family. He even goes and tells his father that he has committed incest somehow to safeguard and protect his sister Candice, means Caddy. Next, third section, 6 April, by Jason. Jason, I told you, Jason is the third child to what? The Compson. A cynical younger brother. He's a cynical. He is the only one child to the Compson. Mrs. Compson loves. Remember that. Now, fourth section describes what happens on 8 April 1928. Once again, present time, shifts to the present time. So see, one section 1928, another section 1910, then another section in some other just a year, and last but not the least, the fourth section again back in present. And here the narrative voice is the voice of the third person, probably William Faulkner himself. By Faulkner, especially Dilsey Compson, servant. And see, the fourth section to some extent is dedicated or focused on Dilsey, the the head or the matriarch of the servant family, with her three sons and probably just one or two just grandsons or grandchildren like Luster, the caretaker to Benjamin. Now let's look at the summary. The first section of the novel begins on the 33rd birthday of Benji. Remember that. The day before Easter 1928 means 7th April. The first section opens on 7th April 1928, right? The day of the 33rd birthday of Benjamin, the youngest child to the Compson. Just a day before the Easter of 1928. Benji and Luster, I told you, grandson to Dilsey, his black caretaker, are together at golf course. They are out of the house at a golf course where many things remind him, Benji, of his bygone days, means past, like the demise of his grandfather, the day his grandfather died, Quentin and Carrie playing in a pool of water, Benji's attacking a passing girl, Carrie's first kissing a boy, and her wedding. Now at present he interrupts Miss Quentin, his niece, and Carrie's illegitimate daughter, kissing a young man with a red tie. Luster now takes Benji home for dinner where Jason, his brother, scones Jason, you know the third one, scones him, but Dilsey, the head servant, treats him with love and care. So this all happens in the first section. The first section opens on the day of the birthday of Benjamin, that is 7th April 1928, a day before the Easter. We see that Benji and Luster, they are out of the house at a golf course where lots of things happen, and those things somehow remind Benji of the past, like the day just Carrie had her first affair, and the boy just to whom Carrie gave her first kiss, then that incident in which Carrie and Quentin just playing in a pool of water, then that incident in which just Benjamin had almost attacked a passing girl, and after that incident he was castrated. Remember that. All these things Benji recollects there at the golf course in the first section. When the first section ends, we see Luster guiding just Benji home for the dinner, where the third child to the Compson, just Jason fourth, schools just Benji, but Dilsey calms and comforts Benji. And here the first section ends. Now see the second section. Now here from the second one, see that Quentin, the eldest of Compson children, narrate the second part. Remember the second part back in 1910. 2nd June 1910. He is at Harvard. Harvard is the name of the University of America, where Quentin was sent by his own father for pursuing his higher education. Now the novel shifts in the flashback, in the past. It is 2nd June. Remember that. It is 2nd June. Just Quentin, the eldest children out of the four to the Compson, is at Harvard in his just in his room in the hostel. And what happens there? See, the day he puts an end to his life by drowning. And 2nd June, remember that 2nd June 1910 was the date Quentin, the eldest children to the Compson, committed suicide, because he could no longer bear and tolerate the promiscuous nature or promiscuity of his sister. See what happens. His narration too is interrupted by musings and memories. And see, the narrative voice is time and again interrupted. And here the narrative voice in the second section of Quentin is again interrupted, but continues. Constant ticking of his grandfather. Here see this watch. See, Quentin has a watch. Alright, and that watch he got from his grandfather. He has a watch from his grandfather, and that ticking, ticking of the watch time and again reminds him of his grandfather and somehow connects him to his grandfather. See, once again, just Faulkner is showing the decay, the fall of the southern aristocracy of America here. So see, watch haunts him and connects him to the family pride that I told you, that when his grandfather was, what a name and fame they had, what a respect they had, that how that respect, that name, that honor was continually declining. And Quentin, highly sensitive, very much concerned all about that. So here, the more he hears the ticking, the more he feels very much distressed and upset, because that ticking of the just watch of his grandfather reminds him of that time, how his family was regarded and respected at the time his grandfather was, and how the family had lost and reduced to that position. Carrie's promiscuity has tormented him. That I told you that Carrie, his younger sister, is very much promiscuous. Promiscuous is used for a woman who goes on going from this man to man, having relation with this man, then to another man, this and that. A woman loose in moral and keeps changing the partner is called promiscuous. So he's very much concerned. They June 2nd, 1910, just Quentin is very much disturbed, thinking all about the pride of the family, thinking all about the name of the family, thinking all about that time his family was greatly respected, but how that family fell from that position after the death of his grandfather, and now how he is disturbed because of the promiscuous nature of his younger sister Carrie. He lies to his father that he and Carrie have committed incest. Probably Carrie here, he gets to know that Carrie is expecting. She is pregnant, and now it is a great shock to him. Somehow he tries to save his sister by taking the responsibility on him, and he goes and tells his father that he and his sister Carrie have committed incest. Committed incest means have had physical relation. If two blood related people just have a kind of a physical intimacy, that is called incest, incest. So in order to save his sister, he goes to his father and tells his father that, see, I have committed incest. But this is too much for him. He remembers his meeting with her first lover. Now he then remembers his meeting with now he remembers the meeting, that he remembered the time he met the first lover of Carrie, his sister, and then her husband, Herbert. Now he gets back to the present, and now he gets back to June 2nd, 1910. And breaks his watch and now loses the temper. Why? Because you can understand the mental and psychological condition of this man, who is haunted by the ticking of that watch of his grandfather, because that watch somehow reminds him of his grandfather, and his grandfather reminds the days of the grandeur. He loses the temper. He picks up the watch and smashes it, breaks it. And after that, what happens? Later, he buys bread for an Italian girl. There, beaten by her brother, he goes on a ride. After that, he goes on a ride with a promiscuous Harvard boy. After that, he gets back to his dorm, means place, room where he lives. Leaves once again, he leaves his watch behind. And remember that after leaving his watch behind, he goes there, climbs up the bridge and throws himself into the water body and commits suicide. Now the third section. Third section is narrated by Jason the Fourth. Remember Jason Fourth. A day before Benji's birthday. A days before Benji's birthday, it means 6 April. Remember 6 April 1928 is the day the third section of the novel describes. Remember that. Now, in the third section, when the third section opens. We see it is 6 April 1928, just a day before the birthday of the last child to the Compson, that is Benjamin. He works at a farm supply store. Remember that this Jason the fourth works at a farm supply store, but this is steals. But he steals the money. He embezzles the money. That carries sense. That carries sense for her illegitimate daughter, Miss Quinton. Remember at this point. Steals the money, carries sense for her daughter. He is seen arguing Quinton over dinner at the end of this section. With this section ends, we see Jason Fourth arguing with Miss Quinton, illegitimate daughter, to carry over the dinner. Why? Because he does not like Quinton at all. And he is embezzling the money. He is stealing the money and using the money for his own personal interest. The money that carries sending for his daughter, Miss Quinton. Now the fourth but last section of the novel, that is the fourth section, is narrated by the third person. Narrative voice is the third person, that is probably Faulkner. Quinton has eloped with all Jason's money, and right in the beginning of the fourth section, probably narrated by the third person narrative voice, probably William Faulkner, we get to know that Miss Quinton at last has eloped, run away with the intention of getting married to a young man with the red tie, with all the money that Jason Fourth had collected. And actually the money that he collected was not his money. The money that Carrie sent to her daughter, but he did not allow that money to go straightway to Quentin, but instead stole the money. And here at last, Quentin has collected all the money and has run away with a boy, with a young man with red tie. Sorry, friends. Yes, Luster takes Benji on a ride, and here in the fourth section we see Luster, grandson to Dilsey. This is the matriarch of the servant family. He is the grandson to Dilsey. He once again, in the fourth section, we see that Luster takes just a Benji on a ride out of the house. He deviates from usual path. He does not take the path that he generally takes to Luster. Because of that, what happened? Benji shouts. Jason appears. At that time, Jason appears and hits Benji and Luster both. Remember that. Jason appears and hits Benji and Luster. This is Luster. Luster is back on usual track. The moment Luster is back on the usual track, Benji is normal once again. See, Benji is normal. And here the part fourth ends. And now see what we see in the appendix of the novel. The novel has an appendix, remember that. Faulkner narrates the fate of the Compson after the novel in the appendix. So Faulkner narrates the fate of the Compson in the appendix, like This Caroline Bascom dies, and Jason sends Benji to an asylum, to a hospital where madmen are treated, and sells their house, and Jason Fourth sells their house. These all things are narrated by Faulkner in the appendix of the novel. And here the summary of the novel ends, my dear friends. So hope, my dear friends, this summary of mine will definitely help you understand this novel.